All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Hi everyone, how are you doing today?
Good.
Good. My name's Angela Evans, and today we're going to be having the View It and Do It. This is going to be a student panel on presentation content, etiquette, and delivery. And this is sponsored by STARS, the Career Development Center, and the Research Society. So right now I'm going to go ahead and let everyone introduce themselves. Let's go ahead and start with you.
You want to come on?
No, you can go ahead, the microphone's
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Gabriel Broughton. I did STARS last year with one of my colleagues who's not here today, Jerry, or his Vietnamese name is Young Lee. We did a project on consumer behavior on brand loyalty. Our professor was Dr. Shipra Gupta. I don't know if anyone's familiar with her. She was teaching marketing at the time. Right now I'm getting my MPA, Master's, and I'm in the Gypsy program. Thank you for coming right now, and give yourselves a round of applause for those of you that are doing STARS right now. Thanks.
Hello, my name is Austin Mehmet. I'm a BS in computer science and a BA in legal studies. I'm also your student body president, so a lot of my speaking ability and presentation skills come from that. But I've actually not done STARS, but I did departmental research within legal studies in regards to obscenity law, so that's kind of where my foundation is here with this panel.
Hi, my name is Shailene Croft. I have a major in biology. I have not presented at STARS, but I did present in Chicago at the LSMCE conference there.
Hi everybody, my name is Alex. I am a senior political science and sociology/anthropology major. I presented at STARS last year, and then the next 2 weeks I'm going to be presenting at the Midwest Sociological Society and the National Conference on Undergraduate Research.
Just
That's
leave
not
it there, I
stretching.
don't know.
Yeah, all right.
Hey everybody, my name is Aubrey. I am in the Human Developmental Counseling program here at UIS. It's a master's program. I will be presenting at STARS for my third time this year. I started working on research when I was an undergrad. Last year I presented at NPA in Chicago, and in 2 weeks I'm presenting in Austin, Texas at the Society for Research and Child Development.
All right, so we'll go ahead and get started. Can you, I'd like for a couple of you to respond. Tell us how you went about preparing for your presentation, either your oral or poster presentations for your research or just speaking experience. Anyone like to answer?
I can start. So I've been working on 2 posters, and both times I started with, you really have to figure out what you want to present to the audience. Before you can start laying out or thinking about colors or what you want, you need to figure out what you want to actually explain and what part of the project you want to show to the audience.
I think in general, by the time you're at presentation stage, you've done the research, and you should trust yourself that you know your stuff, you know what you've done your research on, and this is kind of the culmination. This should be your chance to show off all this great research you did to your audience.
I would say, since I said Dr. Gupta was our mentor, we made office appointments with her, so I don't know if you guys have a mentor who is willing to meet with you, but she was more than happy to meet with us. And she literally, we started with her as far as presenting. We presented in her office to her as if she was the audience, and she kind of gave us some feedback. So I would encourage you to go to your mentor and actually just start and do like a little speech and just keep practicing like that.
Can you guys tell us a little bit more in terms of how you went about developing your opening content, and then as well as kind of wrapping everything up to make it really engaging and enticing?
I think one of the biggest things is you should try and stay away from technical jargon as much as you can, because that's how you lose people. Most people that are in the audience are not going to be experts on your subject, and so you have to find a way to break it down in a way that's going to be able to be understood by a large number of people that haven't studied political science or psychology or whatever you're presenting for a long period of time, that's going to make your project the most engaging it can be.
That's a really great point. It really goes down to like know your audience. So if you are talking to somebody of like, you know, your field, you know, use that expertise. But if you're not, you know, tone it down. I think one point that I've always kind of lived up to is, you know, for your opening, those first few words that come out of your mouth will determine whether or not the person wants to listen to you for the next minute. A lot of people, I mean, we've all done this. We've tuned out after like, oh, I don't really care. But if you can have an opening that grasps attention, then you can have that person no matter what the topic is, no matter how boring it is, you just got their attention for a long period of time. So to develop that, go to your friends and try to, you know, practice some things. Like, hey, this is how I want to start it open, or, you know, talk to your mentors and run some things by and practice those. Just like the first like 5 to 10 seconds of what you're going to say are crucial to, I think I'm talking more about like when you're up with your poster and just trying to grasp people's attention for what you're studying. I think those like first few seconds of when you start speaking are extraordinarily important.
I think it's really even more important than even what you're saying. It's super important because you're in a hall with tons of other posters. At STARS, at other conferences, I think there was like, over a total of like 3 sections of poster presentations. There was like 500 posters at the conference I went to. So you're one of hundreds, and the judges are going around to every poster, and people are going around to every poster. So if you're not enthusiastic and you're not engaging, they're just going to lose interest and move on.
It's also important to consider if you are going to do a poster presentation or your typical presentation where you're in front of an auditorium presenting. If you're doing a poster presentation, which is what I always do, you also need to think about, I always was taught by my mentor, if you're giving your 1-minute spiel or your 5 minutes. So if someone's just quickly walking by and you want them to know the most important thing, like your results, what it means, why does it matter, you know, you throw that right in. If you're gonna do the 5-minute where you have a little bit more time with them and it's one-on-one, it's intimate, you're close, you have time to kind of go through your whole poster and you have time for questions. So it's really just important to, as they've been saying, look at your audience and feed off of what you think they want and what they're wanting to hear as far as a poster presentation.
If you're doing an oral presentation, we did an oral one last year, and our mentor encouraged us to kind of make a story from the beginning, just to bring them in on what you're actually doing. So we did a face-to-face survey at the White Oaks Mall, so we kind of explained that. And then we kind of added, you know, you keep a professional manner to you, but we did add some jokes in there in between just to keep, you know, it lifted during the presentation.
And I think that's a really important point, is anytime you're doing a presentation, you're really trying to find a balance between professionalism as well as being a human and trying to let people relate to you. So it's kind of throwing a little bit of humor in there as well, and just, you know, that you're down to earth. In terms of professional attire, what would you guys say? How did you prepare? Like, did you do more business casual, or did you do more professional suits and things like that? How did you guys go about preparing what you were going to wear and how you were going to kind of fake it till you make it kind of thing?
I think that really goes to, I think, the point of like know your audience. And that if you're going to do something that's very, very professional and you know your audience is going to be, you know, suit and tie, maybe like financing or accounting type, that usually tends to be a little bit more formal, wear suit and tie. If you know that you're, you know, like I'm a computer science student, we're known for wearing t-shirts and jeans, you know, if you come overdressed, you're just not going to seem like you're a part of that crowd. So maybe tone it down to something like what we're wearing. I can't really see what you're wearing, but something just, you know, and I can't speak for ladies because I will get that completely wrong. But, you know, just like a nice pair of pants and a button-up shirt will go you wonders. And if you need to, you know, take that the next step further, throw on a jacket. And if you really want to go, you know, all the way, you know, put on a suit and tie. But I think it really goes to know your audience. Who's going to be the people interested, and how do you want to present yourself to the way that they're going to go, he's a part of the same crowd that I'm in. Right? I'm a computer science student. He looks like he's a professional computer science person. I'd like to talk to him. So I think that really goes to, you know, who is your audience?
So STARS in general is a rather laid-back symposium. We want everybody to go and succeed and have a good time. But like next week, I'm going to the Midwest Sociological Society, where it is going to be me and a bunch of PhDs in sociology. I'm a undergrad student. So I would be wearing very fancy clothes to try and make myself present myself better. So I think I agree with him, is know your audience, know who you're going to be among, know who you're going to be presenting to, and like I said, STARS, which I know a lot of the people in the audience are here for, you know, look nice, but you don't have to, you know, go rent a tux or anything.
Yeah, like casual, when we say casual, that doesn't mean jeans and a suit.
Yeah.
I should be clear on that, is that even though the computer science field are jeans and t-shirts, no, don't wear jeans and t-shirts.
Yeah.
But wear like a nice pair of pants and a button-up shirt will, I mean, you know, it'll take you very far. You should probably speak on behalf of women.
Well, I have two things, and it's not really for women, it's anything. It's, one, definitely leave jeans at home. Like, even business casual, just no jeans, ever. Not on interviews, not on presentations, not on anything, don't wear jeans. And as much as know your audience, also know your environment, pay attention to emails and things that are sent out for the conference or for the presentation space. I was really surprised to find out that on the second day, anyone that was presenting posters on the second day of the conference that I was at got to present in t-shirts and jeans because they were actually promoting a day where you wore college t-shirts to say where you were from. So that was really cool, but everyone who had dressed up that day, I mean, they stuck out just as much as if you were wearing jeans and a t-shirt on the day where everyone else was dressed up, so.
That's a great point. And also you kind of think about tailoring it to your audience. Everyone knows Jake from State Farm, right? State Farm is someone who is known for more business casual with the khakis, right? So definitely tailor towards your environment. And also when it comes to professional attire and also just presentation, fake it till you make it. So that means exude the person you want to be. And so that means dressing appropriately. Does anyone have any questions at this point? What we're going to kind of do is have you guys ask questions at each point. No? Any questions right now? Okay. All right. So the next question is, we covered some of this. What makes or has made an interesting, engaging presentation from either what you guys have delivered yourself or maybe something that you've witnessed personally in terms of a poster or a good oral presentation?
I think it first starts, so the most interesting that I always see starts with the person. And if they're able to grasp my attention, visuals always come second. But then it's always like a nice cherry on top when you've done something interesting with your poster, you know, it's colorful or it grabs your attention, or if it uses something that's, I guess we would say non-standard, or if you're giving a presentation and it's non-standard. But you don't want to be an outlier or out there. But I would always say that like the most interesting presentations come down to the way that you present it. And as long as you're confident and you know your material, which you probably all do if you're presenting at STARS and have done that research, you know, just be confident in what you're saying, you know, speak with, you know, kind of authority, but don't be cocky, and you'll be a very engaging presentation.
I think I would rather see, and I would rather use a really great PowerPoint than to see someone use a Prezi or something a little bit fancier just for the sake of using it. Some people get so lost in the visual effects and trying to make themselves artificially entertaining that it takes away from the actual presentation itself.
Or when you're trying to present and have a ton of technical issues that are totally
Yeah,
unnecessary.
exactly, yeah.
And that's one of the things I can say just from even this experience. You want to make sure that you have a backup plan to your backup plan. So what you think may work, what would you do if perhaps your PowerPoint didn't work? Or if you had a PowerPoint, what would you do if you had to be more interactive and rely on more interpersonal communication? So how about icebreakers? How do you guys generally get started in terms of engaging people in terms of your presentation? Whether it be for the poster or for the oral presentation?
For my oral presentation, we literally started like I kind of just did now. So you state things like your name, your degree, kind of your goals. As far as we had a class with Dr. Gupta, so we mentioned, you know, we had this class with Dr. Gupta in marketing, and then I turned it to Jerry. So for me, that kind of like broke the ice as far as starting the presentation.
In terms of like good interaction, so some of the things we're talking about is just professional etiquette. So obviously when you're engaging with someone, you want to have good eye contact. Talk to me about, or talk to the audience about some of the things that you feel make an engaging exchange.
I think, so when you are presenting a poster, which is, I'm guessing, probably the majority, I actually tended not to engage them right away and to just kind of let them take their time looking over my poster and let them look to me. I just felt like, you know, and I would ask if they looked at it for a little while or whatever, but when they looked up at me, do you have any questions? Would you like me to explain it to you? And kind of go through either my 1 minute or 5 minute, depending on how many people were there or how interested they looked or how much time I had. But it's much easier to get that one-on-one contact and to have eye contact and to talk to people when you're presenting a poster.
I think when you're going to an oral presentation, do not memorize it word for word. It's like a death sentence of boring because you're just sitting up there like regurgitating stuff. I feel it's much more engaging for you to just speak naturally. You know the stuff. You've done a semester's worth of research. You know your stuff. Go through and practice so you know what you're going to say, but don't try to memorize it because you're just up there spewing stuff at people, and people tend to tune out when they figure out you're just going to recite stuff word for word.
Yeah, and as she said earlier, be human, be relatable. You don't want to hear someone going word for word, staring at a piece of paper or their note cards. Engage with someone. You've done the research. Trust yourself. Know that it's okay to be anxious. Everyone gets anxious, and just talk to the person. Be enthusiastic about what you're talking about, because if I'm talking to you and I'm like, guys, this is what I'm doing right now, you're like, okay, see you later. She's boring. Like, she didn't draw me in. You got to act like you're passionate about what you're doing. And body language is huge. So don't be closed off to the person like this. You want to be open to them, so you're inviting. I just know from looking at other people's posters, if the person looks closed off to me, I usually don't stop. If they look inviting, it's more welcoming to stop and ask questions.
Let's move on and talk about enthusiasm. So you have to be really jazzed about what you're doing to get other people excited about it. How do you guys feel like you get yourself motivated to talk about your topic? Is it just your internal passion, or is it kind of more the practice and just going through and rehearsing?
I would say, like, just simply be proud of the fact, one, that you're going to see the University of Illinois. I know it's in Springfield, but it's a big part. And then two, that you're a part of something like STARS. That's a really big deal. I really thought about that through, and I was like, hey, this is really cool. And then just be happy and have fun out there. You're presenting information. You're doing good stuff, so be proud.
Sorry, go
No,
ahead.
go ahead.
So I take it in two parts. One, you've done the research and you're probably pretty interested in what you've done. So that should generate some enthusiasm right there, and you can be enthusiastic about the research that you've done and kind of the interest that you have. Let's say worst case scenario, you hate the research you've done and the presentation that you're just not interested in it at all. I live by the standard of fake it till you make it. You can act as happy as you want, and you can seem as energetic as you are, and people will believe that you're really interested in that. And it really comes to just, if I'm sitting up here, I mean, you could probably think that I'm having a horrible time up here right now, but I'm talking with an enthusiastic tone, and I'm saying things with confidence. I mean, this is kind of what is the foundation for fake it till you make it. I know it sounds weird, but you can, maybe you're not, enjoying the research, or maybe the outcome that wasn't what you expected. You're doing research and you got an outcome that you didn't like. Can't change the way science works, so you have to be energetic about the results, and you need to say, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to talk to you with confidence. It just comes, I think, with practice, in that people don't like doing this, but you can record yourself and watch it. It's hell to do that, but it helps a lot, because you can see, I'm saying too much at this one point around. I'm using a little too much technical data at this one part. So you can kind of, weave that in, but, I'm human just like you guys, and I hate recording myself. So it's like looking in the mirror and doing it, again, weird, but it does really actually help.
I think too, like, even if it doesn't come out the way you want it to or anything else, there's a reason why you did it in the first place, and hopefully it's not just because it looked good. But hopefully it's something deeper than that, and you had some sort of question or some sort of thing that you were interested in that you got to answer and be part of. And just reminding yourself that you were interested in it can maybe get you interested in it again and help spread that passion.
And I would have to agree that, especially with what Austin said, the more you practice and actually do it in front of a mirror and make sure that your tone and your body language they're cohesive. Because a lot of times people will say, I like to talk with my hands a lot. You don't want to be like flailing all over the place. So it's just really about self-awareness. And so the more self-aware you are, if you do have certain quirks or different things that you're doing that is distracting, you can kind of be aware of that and draw it back.
I echo that exact same thing. I talk with my hands a lot. It's just the way that I talk. I think it's like my what is it, the Italian heritage, where you just talk with your hands. But yeah, like looking at yourself in the mirror or recording yourself. I remember I recorded myself one time. I was like, I look like an idiot. I mean, it was just like I just don't look right, using my hands in that kind of way. And the only way you can find that out is, looking at yourself in the mirror or recording yourself or doing it in front of a friend or trying to, maybe do it in front of an advisor, because then they can go, you need to cool it on the hand gestures there, you're being a distraction. You don't want to distract your audience because that takes away from your presentation and, the enjoyment that they're probably going to get from learning something from you.
I found out the hard way. I'd given a presentation on my research, and my mentor was there taking pictures, and all of a sudden I'm like there, like making all kinds of weird hand movements and like face movements, and I'm like, I need to bring that down a lot.
Okay. All right. So moving on to the next question. What are the key learning points that you gained from your presentation experiences that you feel are important for new presenters to know? In other words, knowing what you know now, what would you suggest or what would you have done differently?
I think one of the biggest things I was worried about, and you can't really know ahead of time, was what questions people were going to ask you. It's like you've done the research, you know your stuff, and you're in control of your initial speech and what you're giving them. But then how they take that information, process it, and try to ask you questions after is unknown. And I found out that if you just ask people, family members, your friends, and usually they don't do the same sort of stuff that you do. So it gives you a different perspective, and if they will ask similar questions to what other people will ask you. So it'll at least give you an idea of the questions that are to come.
So off that, don't be afraid to admit that you don't know something. A lot of us are here are undergraduates, we're not PhDs, experts in anything. Don't be afraid to admit that, that wasn't in the scope of my research. I don't exactly know the answer to that. That'd be a great thing to go into further research on. You don't have to be a monolith of information on your topic. You're allowed to be human and admit, I don't know.
That could be a really great area to launch, because if you're thinking about academic research, what you try to do is extend the literature or knowledge based off of what somebody already done. And so that's what makes good academic research, because it's building off of something else. And so that's something to consider as well. So is there anything else you guys can think of that you feel are really important for new presenters to know? Or other things that, now that you've already presented, what you would have done differently in terms of your poster or oral presentations?
I mean, I guess the best thing to say is just practice. Just keep, if you have like a script, you shouldn't have a script, but maybe you have like a general outline. Practice it, go through it, and know it, and do that a few times, because I think we've all given a presentation where we just kind of winged it and it didn't go so well, or maybe you're a presentation god and it went great. But I think one of the things that I've done is I've kind of just winged something and it didn't go well. So always practice, know your material, refresh yourself, and be confident. When you go up there, we all get the nervous chills. I think when you get up there and you're nervous, but those go away right when you start talking. So just be confident. You know what your material is, and practice.
And it gets easier. Like
Yeah.
the first person that comes to your poster, I think I just worded, all my words came out, all of them at one time. And it was terrible. But then the next person and each person that came, my speech got more and more refined and got more precise and got more informative and less fluff that people didn't actually care about. So now I'm giving the presentation again in a few weeks at the National Conference of Undergrad Research, and I feel way better than I did for my first presentation. Like, I know better what to say, what not to say, and just, it gets easier. The more you do it, the more you practice, the more people you are exposed to, it gets easier.
And with that, even when it does get easier, it's okay to be anxious every time, because I'm coming up on a 5th and I'm anxious right now. I mean, it's okay to be anxious and don't think, oh, I already did one, I shouldn't be anxious, like it should have went away. It's okay to be anxious, and like he said, if you don't know something, just say you don't know, and it's okay. It's better to say you don't know than to try to, figure out a way to make something that sounds better. You're gonna have times where you get results that you don't like, or they're not what you wanted, but it's still important to report. I mean, even if they're not the results you wanted, it's still important data to look at, and then just refine your topic next time you're gonna go back to do another project. But just know that it is okay to be anxious up there, if that is you.
And I think one of the things too, that just getting up here and even presenting, the more comfortable you get, a lot of times the things that you thought you would never be able to do or that you could see yourself doing, you grow in leaps and bounds in terms of self-confidence and just personal growth. So that's something to really think about in terms of a continuum, kind of like you do your career development process. Where you start in the beginning and where you end up are two completely different points. Okay, so the next question. How have you guys connected your interests and or your research with your career path or what you would like to do for your futures?
So interestingly enough, all my research would be within obscenity law within the United States. And I will be doing software development for State Farm, which are completely not connected. But the presentation skills, I think it all comes down to soft skills, in that we're kind of moving away from teaching students soft skills, but we gain them through our extracurricular activities. So like, how do you talk to somebody? How do you give your elevator pitch? Kind of all of these things translate into any career path. So how do you greet somebody in the elevator, right? Say you're an associate at a company and you want to move up and you see the executive in the elevator, giving an elevator pitch. Just a few minutes about who you are and, what you've done. All of this translates to those soft skills that you, I think, need in the career, the workforce. So while my research, the specific research, doesn't relate at all to what I'll be doing, but all of the skills that you'll do from doing this and everything that you'll do, no matter what career path you get into, will help you tremendously.
And that's one of the things, just to clarify, we call these transferable skills. So everything that Austin's talking about. So when we talk about problem solving, when we talk about research and writing, when we talk about interpersonal communication, public speaking, all those sorts of things, those are all going to be transferable into any setting and be very useful in whatever path you choose.
I actually got lucky. My research is directly relatable to what I want to do. I was able to get almost like an internship. I do lung cancer research and e-cigarette research at SIU. So I learned how to do a lot of laboratory skills and get a lot of laboratory experience that will directly benefit me in the future. So that was really cool. But I did another project that was very much not. I did another project that was water quality in the Gambia, and I got to go to Africa, but it was more transferable skills. It was more getting to work with groups of people that I'd never met before and learning new things that I may not use again, but it was a great experience.
And that's something also from this, you can see that not only is it possibly reinforcing what you think you want to do, it's also going to let you know maybe things that you are going to dip your toes and realize, hey, this really isn't for me. Or it can be a stepping stone or a connection that is yet to come. So all of this is very kind of just part of the circle of your career and of life. Does anyone else have anything to add with this?
I'm going to assume that many of us here with research interests want to go to grad school or med school someday. And in particular, having research experience on your resume just makes you look that much better, because it's one less thing that a grad school or a med school has to worry about. They're going to be more confident in your ability to do research, having proven that you've already done it. And like my internship right now is doing research here at UIS on political science teaching methodology. And like that's not really what I want to do, but I want to do research, and I like doing research. A lot of the jobs I apply for are in social research positions. So I think that research, and especially like the hard sciences research, there's so much out there that if you're really into research, you can translate that directly into a career path.
And I think that's another really good point, because regardless if you're liberal sciences, if you're business, if you're a hard science, you have to be able to take information and be able to make sense of it. And so whatever way you go about doing that is something that's very important. And each thing is a stepping stone in terms of, as you can see, you might start out with research, and that might lead to an internship or a campus club, and then maybe graduate school or something like that. So all of this is very intertwined. All right. Can you provide a question that you've been asked that you think might be really helpful for students to prepare in kind of like engaging with audience members? Like, for example, what was a challenge you encountered in your research or in a presentation, and how did you address it? Or maybe, what was your favorite moment from your experience?
I have a really great one that is a really big point. I said I went to Africa for my research. People listen to my whole speech, take in everything that I have to say, and then say, so how was Africa? Did you really get to that? Did you see giraffes? While I love to talk about it, you should remember why you're there. So, rein it back and keep on topic. So, like, people will ask you questions that might be way beyond the scope of your research, or maybe not even related. And it's okay to say you don't know. It's okay to say your project didn't go that far. And it's totally okay to gently remind them back to the actual subject.
Exactly. And I think that this is kind of a good balance. If you think about what skills have you gained, because sometimes people will ask you about specific things, like maybe if you used a certain technical or software program or something to analyze your research, being able to talk about some of those hard skills and being able to pull in the soft skills as well. But like thinking about a challenge and how you address something and came about with a solution, that's something that is generally a sound topic to be able to practice. But really, what was your favorite moment from your experience? That's kind of more that humanistic piece.
I think, oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
So we used SurveyMonkey for ours, and then we used SPSs. So some of the questions were like, like she was saying, what kind of tools did you use to make this presentation possible? So just, have a little background knowledge of what you used. And then one of the stories that we shared during my presentation was, like I said, we were doing survey face-to-face at White Oaks Mall, and one of the funny things that happened was we got kicked out of the mall, actually, by the mall security. But an even funnier thing was one of my team members' sister was working at the mall, and she knew the, I guess, mall manager, and so she kind of was using his name. And she was like, so Lucas was like, Doug Regan told us that we could stay here, and we were all proud. And he goes, oh really? He goes, I am Doug Regan. So that was a really fun part of it. We just had fun with the surveys. But back to what I was saying, know what kind of tools you used during your research for your presentation.
So one thing that none of us can help you with is the question that you don't know the answer to. And we've kind of said, it's okay, you can admit that you don't know the answer to that question. But so, like step through the process, so you're given that question that you don't know. I would say that it's not the best thing to first come off and say, I don't know the answer to that question. Because it makes you seem maybe like this person just, will say, oh, this person maybe doesn't know what they're presenting on. But try to relate it to the next closest thing. The next closest thing, even if it's unrelated, this is kind of the answer you give. Give at least, 10, 15, 20 seconds of a related subject, and then so, well, I don't know if that's directly connected, my research didn't go that far, or, maybe I'm not really understanding the direct point of your question, but it goes to the confidence in the way that you present yourself, and that you kind of always want to seem like you're the one that knows your material, so trying to connect, if you get a question that is just completely left field, you don't know the answer, it's okay. Don't say you don't know the answer, but make that your second point, and that your first point should be something about your research, connecting it to this unrelated question, or something that's related to that question. I have experience with it, it's called moot court. And you present in front of 7 judges, and you do about a 15-minute presentation. And you need to know your stuff, and they will ask you questions you have no idea the answer to. But that's not what, if you say, I don't know, then it doesn't present well to these justices. So always trying to pull something out, even if it's anything. Just saying, I'm going to say, this about this part of my research, even though it's not connected to the question. My second point will be, I don't know the answer to that question, but this is what my research has shown me. And it's kind of just, one of those presentational tricks to making yourself seem more confident, making yourself seem more knowledgeable. But yeah, if you don't know the answer, your second point should be, I don't know the answer, but I want to connect it back to my research here.
I've kind of used that. I got asked, so I did a chemistry project, I'm a biology major, there was a lot of stuff that I did not, I also worked with like at least 10 other people on this project, and we all kind of picked a parameter, and as the biology major, I worked on coliforms and E. coli. So I got asked a very specific question about nitrites, and why were they so high in this particular area, and what does that mean, and they wanted every detail. I had no idea. But before saying, I don't have any idea, I did kind of bring it back to, well, I'm the biology major and this was a collaborative effort, so what I really know the most about is where I, perform my duties and the coliforms. I said I can answer really specific questions about that, but I just kind of have a general overview about the rest. I can explain the data, but I'm not sure the answer to that specific question.
That'd be a perfect way to do it.
Yeah.
One of the questions I always get asked is, why does your research matter? I do social movement research, so I'm not, it's important, but it's harder for people outside of the social sciences to directly see what that means to society. And so know what you're gonna say when your dad asks you, why are you doing sociology research? Why? Know why your research matters to you and to society. Because all research means something to you and to society, or else you wouldn't be doing it.
It doesn't matter the topic. Yeah, know why you're doing it, know why it matters.
All right, great. Well, this is kind of a great segue into our next and final area. This is going to be an interactive exercise. Each of you should have received a sheet with one of these things on here. It's an elevator pitch. And so what I'm going to be doing is showing a brief career spot, which is a career YouTube. And it's a couple of minutes long. And if you want, you have a pen. This will give you some time to think about specifically how you would go about with your elevator pitch. So this is the Career Development Center, and if you're interested in watching brief YouTubes, you can go to the Career Advice videos, and it's called Career Spots. And we're going to watch the one on the elevator pitch.
Elevator pitch is a powerful way to introduce yourself today. You never know who's going to get an opportunity to help you in your career and network your career. Its origins really started in an elevator in New York City. People used to figure out, what do I need to say when I meet somebody in an elevator and I have 20 or 30 seconds in which to tell them a little bit about myself?
I think most people probably wouldn't say anything because they wouldn't know exactly what to say. And they wouldn't want to embarrass themselves.
I would say that I know your company is a very big company, a very famous company, and I'm really interested.
It's not a speech, it's a conversation amongst two people, but it's enabling you to tell them who you are, what you stand for, where you want to go in life, and what you can bring to an organization.
I'm finishing up an engineering degree, and I'm very interested. I very much like your company and your job, and I'm very interested in working there. I can get to you my information when I need to, but I'd appreciate it if you consider me for your position.
I think I would say my name, also let them know that I was very interested in the company and let them know what it is about the company that I was interested in, their community service, their networking event, the people that I discussed, and then a little bit about my background and what would make me great for that particular position.
She did perfect. She's very poised, very enthusiastic. That's what people want to see. In an elevator pitch, what you want to do is introduce yourself clearly, shake hands, make eye contact, have good body language, because everybody, when they're looking to meet somebody, really wants to meet somebody who's personable and interesting.
Well, hello. My name is Harmony Upchurch. I'm currently enrolled in Westchester University, Pennsylvania. I will be studying biology and soon go to veterinary school to become a veterinarian.
So that was good. So you gave a very beautiful first opening speech about where you're going. And this is common for young people. They're just not used to talking about where they're going and what their career is going to involve and what their value may be to an organization because you're just starting out in life. But keeping in mind that that person could help you down the line, you still want to tell them now a little bit about yourself. We know where you're going, so you may add in any organizations that you're involved in or passions that you have in addition to your veterinarian career. In your elevator speech, it's not all about saying words like I'm passionate about something. It's about demonstrating that. So if you are involved in a philanthropic organization or if you do raise money and you do volunteer, mention that. Because that speaks to the passion that you have and what you care about in your life, rather than you saying, I'm great with people, I like people. The best way for a young person to get comfortable with an elevator speech is to first write a couple of them out, and then practice and see how it sounds. You should learn to stand in front of a mirror and introduce yourself, give your elevator speech, see how you present yourself physically, look at your body language, and you'll learn a lot about yourself just by watching.
After the second time I did, I felt very comfortable with it, and I felt like, okay, I got this. I know what I'm doing.
So a liberal arts major who may meet me as a business owner may introduce himself. Hi, I'm John Smith, and I'm a liberal arts major here at Temple University, and I have ambitions to be a writer. And right now I'm taking several writing classes, creative and journalism, in order to hone my writing skills because I know it's important in the business world. One of the other passions that I have is I'm also involved in utilizing my writing to help organizations. I volunteer for muscular dystrophy. I volunteer for animal protection rights. So I'm involved in quite a few organizations that I can help with the skills I'm learning in college. At the end of the day, I want to have a career that's very fulfilling to me. I want to work with people I love and trust and for causes that I'm really passionate about. So you think you're ready for your elevator pitch? Let's see, give it a try.
All right, and so that's actually what I want you guys to do. I would love for you to wrap up, to pair up with someone, and to kind of think about, tell me a little bit about yourself, or what do you hope to gain from your research experience? So if you guys would like to, go ahead and partner up and go ahead and practice. And then after that, we're just gonna have casual networking and pizza, okay? And if you guys have any other questions, we're gonna remain up here and we'll be happy to stay up here and answer anything that you have, okay? So thank you for attending.
I actually already did this job fair. The left-hand side right, like people across the street. Yeah, there's a like research building. Sorry for residents there.